Darlings, it's Mummy, Sybil Brunson, and I'm here in Cherry Grove on Fire Island on the first day of July. And what a spring it's been. I mean, it is warm out here, but it's not an inferno. Um, Sometimes there's Nikki waving to me. She's putting something out in front of her garden. Um, Usually in July, it's already started to be an inferno, and certainly by August. This has been a mildish summer, just as it was a mildish winter. I'm waiting for my wonderful friends Lois and David to come out and to share time with them. And it's very quiet here still, very, very quiet, although you'd be shocked at the number of people who are not wearing masks out here. Now, Nikki wears a mask all the time, as do I, but when we're in the privacy of our own gardens, we don't. Here's my garden. I wanted to give you a quick little tour of my garden, such as it is. As you know, this is usually the scaevola. This year, I didn't spend money on too many plants at all. I'm budgeting a little bit for a little bit of a change in our lives. So there's some sort of wild clover here. Maybe you guys can tell me what it is. I've forgotten what it is. I'm look at the little tiny green oblong things. Perhaps this is listed as dildo clover of some sort, or something like that. Anyway, it's a clover of some sort, and it's taken over. And those broader green leaf plants are fleabane, and they turn into those white flowers there. That's fleabane up there and over there. I love fleabane. I know a lot of gardeners think it's a weed and it's invasive and everything. I think it gives a garden a real wildflower look to it, which is what it is. And you start combining it with other flowers, and it's actually quite beautiful, even in years when I've been really working hard and spending a fortune on my garden. Montauk Daisy fans. Mummy was late deadheading her Montauk Daisies. I took a risk. I did it last week, and they don't look any the better for the wear. They look terrible. But I'm hoping that they're going to get stocky and muscular and healthy, and whether they blossom or not this year, I'm much more concerned about them being too leggy and strange. I did something dramatic this past 2 weeks. I dug up all my yarrows at the wrong time of the season, and I put them in one pot. So normally my yarrows look much better than this, and this clump in the front was taken from the disintegrating barrel there, and I put it over here. It'll all be better next year. Yarrows are remarkable. They're kind of indestructible, and they actually don't like to have they don't want their soil to be too fertile. They don't want all sorts of things. They'd rather grow in sand. I've seen them growing out here at the beach in the sand, and they're an invasive species. They take over. So I'm hoping these yarrows, with my blessing and my eternal love and gratitude, will take over that pot. Here's a Centaurea montana. Mummy's getting better at her Latin names. I took 5 years of Latin in school. That's also known as a bachelor button. This is kind of a big bachelor button, and you saw some of the blossoms earlier. Look it up, Centaurea, as in centaur, and Montana, as in the state. Look it up. You'll be shocked at what the flowers look like. They look like they're out of Little Shop of Horrors. Here in these big pots right here, there's purple ones, and these are going to be white, and these are going to be purple, and these are going to be purple. This is all liatris, or gay feathers, as they also are called. Strangely appropriate for Cherry Grove and the pines. They are prairie plants. They grow wild, and there are fields of them. They are drought resistant and deer resistant, so they're wonderful for a garden, and all they want is lots of sun. So they don't do well in the shade, but they want lots of sun, and you could even scorch them a little bit. And certainly in pots, they get scorched when they're not being watered, when Mummy isn't here. That's what happens, and they still look at them. They're just beautiful. This little plant right here and its sister, that's woolly thyme, Thyme. Yep, that is thyme, the spice. And this is a variety called woolly thyme, which is a beautiful round cover, and they spread and they hang over pots and ledges, and they're quite lovely. I am zany for gazanias. Zany for gazanias. They've always struck me as kind of silly plants. They're kind of the clown of the garden. They're not useless like petunias, nor narcissists like geraniums. But they're kind of clowns, aren't they? I mean, you look at them and you just sort of want to laugh and point at them. And why not? They're lovely. And they are just the right tropical, and because they're also called African daisies by some people, they are, but so are Gerbers, and maybe they're related to Gerbers. Anyway, the bottom line is that they're not native to this area. They're annuals, but they are. There's something lovely about going from fleabanes and liatris and all sorts of different things down to these, and these are wonderful. And all you need to do is deadhead them, and Mummy has to deadhead. There's one, and there's one, and there's one. I'll deadhead those. My lavender. This is my lavender that's turning into a bonsai tree. I love this plant. I inherited this plant from my gardener, Robert Conlon, who had it in a burlap bag. So year after year, it was in a burlap bag. He never got around to planting it. No one ever bought it. And finally last year, or was it 2 years ago now, I bought it from him. It was in a burlap bag, literally. The soil ball was just left there, exposed to the elements, winter after winter, and here it is, and it's doing well. The thing I'm learning about lavender, don't overwater it. Don't cut it back to its wood, and don't overwater it. It doesn't want to be fussed with. There's a yarrow. That was a yarrow right there, those two little ones. I'm going to buy some more yarrow. This is red yarrow. It's red with little tiny yellow centers on the flowers. Beautiful flower. And I'm going to try and get some seeds and fill that pot so that that pot becomes devoted to yarrows. These, I believe, are called wild geraniums. They're all over the place along with the fleabane and everything. These, as you know, last year were coleus and geraniums, and especially New Guinean patience. I just didn't have the money this year, darlings. I just didn't want to spend the money, so I didn't spend it. So I'm letting it go wild and free next to my fabulous heuchera, which I've had for years and years and years, and continues to send up its little flowers. These are called Choral Bells. It's the generic name or whatever is Choral Bells, and but it's heuchera, Heuchera. The CH is hard. Heuchera, heuchera, and it comes in a bunch of varieties, much as coleus does. Over here, this is a lavender that has been sort of. Look at this. Okay. There's a lavender that was completely abused and orphaned, and Mummy is trying to rescue it. Sort of as a strange thing. Here's two others on the tabletop. Those are lavenders that sort of were abused, and I got them from a rescue shelter, and I'm trying to bring them back. I've tried to teach them to roll over and to sit up and beg, and they're remarkably sullen, and who can blame them? These closed up little blue flowers are called evolvulus, or dwarf morning glories. They don't look at all like morning glories, and here they are over here too with calabrocua. There's calabracua, and there's dwarf morning glories, and there's dwarf morning glories and calabracua. Interesting about these dwarf morning glories, and there's some too. These dwarf morning glories usually stay wide open until the sun sets, and then open only when the sun hits them. The bio clock that these are on is very puzzling. I'm not sure if they're on Rocky Mountain time or Pacific time, but there's definitely no, they're not. They're closing up early, so that means they're on Quebec time or the Newfoundland, Labrador time or something. Anyway, or Iceland time, who knows? Anyway, they refuse to stay open, and it's quite frustrating. They open late, and then they close up early. Maybe they're collecting unemployment or something, and they just don't feel they have to work. Whatever. This is salvia, which has gone by. This was white and purple salvia. This is, salvia the spice. The leaves that are used in Italian cooking, and these have gone to seed, and I'm going to put the seeds in the pot to beef it up. This purple flower right here is called Veronica or Speedwell, and it's just beginning to flower, and it's sharing the pot with some asters, which are right there, and it's sharing the pot with some, bee balm. That magenta colored thing is bee balm, and that has been coming back year after year. Not quite as frisky as usual, but who knows? More fleabane. And then, oh, darlings, you gave me the name of this last week, and I've got it upstairs on my desk. I can't remember the name of it. This is a plant that is very invasive, except for the species of it or the varieties that are nearly extinct. So some of it is dangerous to the environment, and some of it has been nearly killed. My plant right here supposedly is the variety that is nearly extinct, and I don't know where I got it or how. It's doing well in this pot, but it wants to be soaked, because if it's not growing in a swamp, it basically droops over, which is why I've got a a peony trellis around it. The peony trellis holds it up. These are my famously infamous balloon flowers. And this, see, they look like balloons, right? Hot air balloons. And at any moment, this purple one could blow open and be the five-pointed star-shaped flower that everyone knows balloon flowers are. People always say, why is it called a balloon flower? Well, until they open, they look like little hot air balloons. And this one will blow open any moment. The thing about them is they're starting to do that. You turn your back and suddenly it explodes open. They don't open slowly like a rose or anything. More fleabane, looking gorgeous. Dianthus, these carnations, have gone by and need to be deadheaded. More asters there, more fleabane. My wonderful blue-eyed grass, which came back this year. These are related to irises. This all needs to be cleaned up, but I'm going to let the blooms finish, and then I'm going to trim the leaves after they've absorbed as much food and sunlight as they can. Look at these, hens and chicks. Oh my goodness. Just out of control. I need to get them in the holes, though, where they have not survived, but the ones that did survive are thriving. More speedwell. This is pink veronica. More fleabane. And then this urn was always the other scaevola, where a mantis might live. But this year, I just decided to put a few evolvulus in it and let it be what it is. That's Mummy's garden. Here's Mummy's outdoor shower stall. So that's it. That's it. There's my Claude Monet hat. And Maiden's Tears. And look, my Japanese painted fern. Look at that. It doesn't even look real. It does look painted. And these are my Maiden's Tears, also known as bladder campion. And these came in as a weed many years ago. And I saved the little sprig of it in this pot with other things, and then it continued to grow, and I weeded it and kept it going, and it took over the pot, and then it took over a couple of years ago. This is the daughter, and it took over the pot next door. It's a ground cover that spreads, and look at that little flower. That's why it's called bladder campion, because it looks like a little bladder of some sort. Do you see the back? Sweet, huh? And also Maiden's Tears. It shows. See. They become those little tiny buds there. That one's going to seed, and I always cut them off, and then I put them back in the ground. When they're going to seed, I put them back in. So that's why this is getting thicker and thicker. Eventually, all the soil in these two will be covered over, and it will be this wonderful gray-green, silvery green foliage which covers everything in the pot, which I love. That's my garden, and that's Cherry Grove for right now. And I'm sitting here in the heat, and boy, it is getting warmer by the minute. I'll take the hose and hose myself down. I just finished doing my groove thing, cleaning all the grooves in my garden and cleaning them out with my dandelion weeder. And there's my dandelion weeder right there. Yep, right there. So I use that and I stick it down in those grooves and rake all the leaves and berries and everything through, and then I sweep everything up, and this is why it looks so crisp and clean right now. So the deck, it's amazing, you do something subtle like that and the deck looks absolutely beautiful, and people can't understand. They say, did you power wash your deck? And it's like, not at all, it's all gray and silvery, but it's because all of the edges, everything is clean. Like my stovetop, when I cook, I wipe it all down, I clean it all up, and everyone always remarks on, my God, your kitchen looks fresh. Well, it's those little details sometimes that do it. Anyway, I will talk to you all later. Darlings, remember what Mommy always says, and what Mommy is now having to remember herself more than ever. More than ever. Be present. Be mindful. Be grateful. Everything you see and smell and taste and hear, everything you hold and hug and love, it's all just borrowed. It's all just borrowed.